Allow the rhythm of your anchor. Feel it as a gentle tide rising and falling within you. With each slow exhale, let a layer of the present day dissolve, like ink washing away in clear water. Let go of the sharp edges of screens, the hum of electricity, the rush of schedules. Imagine a fine silver mist gathering around you, cool and silent. This is the mist of ages, and it does not obscure, but clarifies. It softens the world you know, wrapping it in a gentle silence until it is but a distant memory. The mist begins to thin, not all at once, but in soft, swirling eddies. Through the parting veils, colors begin to form. The deep green of bamboo, the ochre of packed earth, the soft gray of a morning sky. A scent reaches you, clean and ancient, of damped soil and burning incense. The mist recedes completely, and you are standing on a threshold of time, the air of a forgotten dynasty filling your lungs. You have arrived. The world awakens with a quiet deliberateness. You are first aware of the texture beneath you, the firm, intricate weave of a reed mat. The air in the small, single-room dwelling is cool, carrying the scent of the nearby river. A pale, diffused light filters through a window covered not with glass, but with oiled paper, casting soft, indistinct shadows across the wooden walls. You sit up, the coarse fabric of your sleeping robe a familiar roughness against your skin. There is a deep stillness here, a silence broken only by the distant, melodic call of a bird and the gentle rustle of bamboo leaves just outside. You rise and move with practiced ease, your bare feet silent on the smooth, worn floorboards. In one corner sits a low table, upon which rests a simple clay teapot and 2 small cups. You pour water from an earthen jug into a small bronze pot, placing it over a brazier of glowing coals that you carefully tended before sleep. As the water heats, you perform your morning ritual, tying back your long hair with a simple cord and donning your outer robes, humble gray hemp secured with a sash at your waist. The fabric is clean but old, a testament to a life of simplicity and focus. The water begins to whisper. You spoon fragrant dried leaves into the teapot, and as you pour the steaming water, a plume of aromatic vapor unfurls, filling the small space with the scent of green tea. You pour a cup for yourself and one for your master, placing them on a small wooden tray. Carrying it, you slide open the door and step outside. The world is painted in shades of gray and deep blue. The sun has not yet crested the distant hills, but its imminent arrival bleeds a soft, pearlescent light along the horizon. You stand on a small patch of earth overlooking a wide, slow-moving river, its surface like polished jade in the pre-dawn calm. A light mist clings to the water, obscuring the far bank. Beside you, a dense grove of bamboo reaches for the sky, their slender forms swaying in a breeze you can feel but not hear. Your master, Lao Jen, is already there, standing perfectly still at the river's edge, his back to you. His long white hair is neatly bound, and his silhouette is one of profound peace, as if he were not a man, but a feature of the landscape, like an ancient stone. You approach without a word and set the tray down on a flat rock beside him. He does not turn, but you know he is aware of your presence. For a long while, you both simply stand, watching the sky transform. Pinks and golds begin to thread through the gray, and the great river before you slowly catches the light, its surface shimmering. "Observe," Lao Jian says, his voice not loud but carrying with perfect clarity in the morning air. He raises a hand, not pointing but encompassing everything. The sky writes its story each dawn. The river carries the memory of the mountains. They are in harmony. They follow the way. He turns to you then, his eyes deep and clear, holding the wisdom of countless sunrises. Your task today is not with the old texts. The ink on the bamboo slips is dry. The world, however, is wet with new meaning. He gestures to a small satchel resting by the rock, containing a set of blank bamboo slips and a carving knife. Watch the light, watch the water, watch the way the wind speaks to the bamboo. Find one character, one single stroke that captures the harmony of this moment. Do not think it, find it. He picks up his cup of tea, takes a slow, deliberate sip, and gives you a small, knowing nod before turning back to the rising sun. You are left with the vastness of the world, the weight of a simple task, and the quiet thrill of seeing the day born anew. The satchel is cool and smooth in your hands. You untie the leather cord and lay its contents on the flat rock. A half-dozen slips of pale green bamboo, their surfaces sanded to an almost silken finish, and a small, wickedly sharp carving knife with a handle of polished riverstone. The weight of the task seems to settle not in your mind, but in your shoulders. One character, one stroke. How can a single mark contain the immensity of this moment? The silent flow of the river, the slow burn of the sun, the whispering grove at your back. Your mind, trained for years on the complexities of the classics, begins to race. You cycle through the characters you know. The character for water, shui, with its central spine and flowing arms. No, that captures only the river, not the light upon it. The character for heaven, tin, a great line above a man. Too grand, too abstract. Each character you conjure feels like a clumsy net trying to catch the wind. It names a part, but misses the whole. You feel a familiar knot of intellectual frustration tightening in your gut. Lao Jian did not ask you to name what you see, but to find the harmony within it. Sighing, you set down the knife and simply sit. You let your eyes soften their focus. You stop trying to dissect the scene into its components. You breathe in, and the air is cool, smelling of damp earth and river water. You breathe out, and your breath joins the mist rising from the surface. A fish jumps, a brief flash of silver that sends concentric rings spreading across the jade water. Each one a perfect expanding circle before it vanishes back into stillness. A single bamboo leaf, yellowed at the edge, detaches from its stalk and spirals down, landing on the river to begin a silent journey downstream. You are not separate from this. You are a part of the stillness, a part of the motion. Your gaze drifts to the horizon, now a crisp, brilliant line where the golden sky meets the illuminated water. It is a line of separation, yet it is also the point of union. It is the single, unbroken stroke the world has drawn to define itself. It is a beginning. It is a foundation. It is balance. Suddenly, you understand. The answer was never in a complex form, but in the simplest one imaginable. You pick up a bamboo slip, its surface cool against your palm. You take the knife. Your hand, which had felt clumsy with the weight of thought, is now steady. You do not measure or plan. You place the tip of the blade at one edge of the slip, and in a single fluid motion, you draw it across the center. The knife bites into the bamboo, peeling back a fine, fragrant curl of wood. You lift the blade, leaving behind a single, straight, horizontal line. 1. The unity of the moment. The foundation from which all complexity arises. The perfect balance of the horizon. You hold the slip up. The sun, now fully risen above the distant shore, catches in the groove you have carved, filling the single stroke with pure golden light. You do not need to look at your master. You can feel a change in the air, the quiet hum of approval. The world feels simpler now and infinitely more profound. The silence that follows your single stroke is not empty. It is filled with the weight of your master's attention. He moves without a sound, his cloth slippers making no impression on the damp soil, and takes the bamboo slip from your hand. His fingers, thin and calloused, trace the line you carved. He does not compliment the steadiness of your hand or the clean cut of the line. Instead, he holds it up, aligning your mark with the horizon you had just witnessed. They are one and the same. He gives a single, slow nod. It is more affirming than any torrent of praise. You have found the beginning, he says, his voice as calm and clear as the river. You have found heaven, the great unity above. But the world is not made of heaven alone. He sets your slip down and places another, blank one before you. Show me the earth that supports it. Your mind immediately pictures a second line. Simple. You pick up the knife, your newfound confidence a warm coal in your chest. You carve one line, the horizon, the heavens. Then, just below it, you carve a second identical line. You hold it up, a perfect equal sign. 2. R. You have represented duality. But the quiet in your master's eyes tells you that you have only represented a number, not a concept. Are the heavens and the earth equals? He asks. His question a pebble dropped into the still pool of your understanding. Does the vast, unseeable sky have the same nature as the solid, yielding ground on which you sit? One is boundless and initiating. The other is vast, but receptive and nurturing. They are a pair, but they are not the same. You look down at the two identical lines. You had captured duality, but you had missed the relationship. You had drawn two things, but you had not shown how they relate to one another. Your gaze falls to your own reflection in the water. You see your head and shoulders against the backdrop of the sky, but your body is rooted to the ground. The sky is a canopy, but the earth is a foundation. It is wider. It is what everything rests upon. A new understanding dawns, not with the lightning flash of the first, but as a slow, warm sunrise of comprehension. The relationship is not one of equality, but of balance and order. You take a fresh slip. This time, when you carve the first line, heaven, you make it clean and definite. Then, for the second line, earth, you start at the same point but extend it further. It is longer, broader, a stable base upon which the first line rests. The space between them is no longer an empty gap, but a dynamic field of energy, the very air you breathe. This is not just two lines. This is a system. This is the world. You do not stop. Your hand moves with a certainty that feels borrowed from the mountains themselves. On another slip, you carve the heaven line, then the broader earth line below it. And then, between them, you carve a third line, shorter than the sky, longer than a mere point, but perfectly centered. Man, Ren, standing on the earth, living under the heavens, the bridge between the two. The character for 3, Sun, is not a simple count. It is a diagram of the cosmos and your place within it. You lay the 3 slips side by side on the flat river stone. San, the beginning, the world, your place in it. A complete thought, a universe in 3 strokes. Your master picks up the third slip, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. Good, he says. You have learned that a line is not just a line. Now you can begin to write.
Your master doesn't lead you back to the riverbank. Instead, he guides you up a short, worn path to a small, open-sided pavilion that overlooks the valley. The air here is still, sheltered from the river breeze. A low table of dark, polished wood stands in the center. On it, new tools await. A heavy black inkstone, hollowed like a shallow pool. A stick of hardened soot and pine resin, and a small ceramic bowl of clean water. But what truly captures your attention is the brush. It is nothing like the sharp stone you held before. Its handle is smooth bamboo, and its tip is a soft tuft of dark animal hair, tapering to a fine point. It feels delicate, alive. He gestures for you to sit on the woven mat before the table. He pours a few drops of water into the inkstone's reservoir and begins to grind the ink stick in a slow circular motion. The air fills with a faint, earthy scent, like damp soil after a rain. The sound is a rhythmic, meditative whisper of stone on stone.
This is not a hurried act. It is a ritual, a quietening of the mind before the work begins. When the ink is a dark, glossy pool, he dips the brush, shaping its tip against the stone's edge. He unrolls a length of pale, creamy silk. He points with his chin towards an old, gnarled pine tree clinging to the cliffside. He doesn't speak. He simply wants you to look, to truly see it. You see the strong, straight trunk reaching for the sky. You see the main branches spreading out, a canopy parallel to the earth. You see the unseen roots anchoring it, spreading down into the rock. Your master touches the brush to the silk. One swift vertical stroke, full of upward energy, the trunk. A firm horizontal stroke across it, the branches. Then 2 graceful, sweeping strokes falling away from the center, the roots. Mok. It is not a picture of the tree. It is the idea of the tree, its essential structure and force, captured in 4 movements. He cleans the brush and offers it to you, handle first. The soft weight of it is unfamiliar in your hand. You dip it in the ink, mimicking his movements, but the ink blobs and drips. Your first attempt on a fresh piece of silk is a disaster. The lines are weak and watery. It's a clumsy sketch, lifeless. You try again, focusing, but your hand feels like a stone. Frustration burns in your chest. Your lines are either too thick or too thin, the strokes hesitant where they should be bold. Seeing your struggle, the master places his hand over yours. You feel the warmth and the surprising strength in his grip. He doesn't speak, but guides your hand through the motions. You feel the subtle twist of the wrist, the change in pressure that gives a line its character. A strong beginning, a solid middle, a clean end. It is a dance, not a carving. He releases you. You take a breath, emptying your mind of the desire to create a perfect image. You look out at the valley. Your eyes fall upon the distant mountain range, its peaks a familiar silhouette against the brightening sky. You remember the 3 lines: sun, heaven, man. But this is different. The peaks are a single form, a single idea. You lift the brush, and this time your hand moves with a newfound confidence. A central, vertical stroke for the highest peak, flanked by 2 shorter ones, all connected by a single solid base. Shun, mountain. It feels right. It feels true. Your gaze lifts higher, to the sun itself, now clearing the horizon. How to write the sun? A circle seems too simple, too literal. You recall your master's lesson, not the thing itself, but its essence. The sun is a container of fire, a source of light. You draw a neat rectangle, and then inside it, a single horizontal line. Not just an empty shape, but a shape filled with power. Sun. Your heart beats faster. You look at the horizon, a clean straight line. You look at the sun just above it. An image forms in your mind, clear and bright. Dawn. Without hesitation, you draw the character for sun, and directly beneath it, the line of the earth, the horizon. Done. You have made a new word. You have combined 2 ideas to create a third. You have not copied, you have understood. Your master returns and looks down at the silk. He ignores your clumsy attempts at tree. His gaze settles on your final 3 characters: mountain, sun, dawn. He points a single bony finger at the last one: dawn. A rare, slow smile spreads across his face. You did not draw what I showed you, he says, his voice quiet but clear. You wrote what you saw. The brush in your hand no longer feels alien. It feels like a key, and the entire world, all the 10,000 things, is a lock waiting to be opened. The warmth of your master's approval is more potent than the morning sun. It settles in your chest, a quiet coal of confidence. He does not take back the brush. He simply gestures with his chin towards the bare silk beside your triumphant dawn. The message is clear. Continue. But where do you go from here? You have captured the tangible things, the mountain, the sun. But what of the world they inhabit? What of the space that separates them? Your master seems to read your thoughts. He points a finger straight down at the packed earth of the terrace. Then he points straight up at the vast, empty blue of the sky. This, he says, pointing down, and that, he says, pointing up. He looks at you, his eyes asking the silent question, how do you write what has no shape? Your mind falters. You try to picture the ground. Do you draw the pebbles, the dust, a patch of moss? You try to picture the sky. Do you paint a wash of blue? That is not writing. That is painting. You feel the old frustration begin to creep back, the sense of an impossible task. You look to your master for a clue. He simply waits, his patience as vast as the valley itself. He walks to the edge of the terrace and draws a long, straight line in the dust with his sandal. A horizon, the same one you used for dawn. He looks at you. He then makes a small, quick mark in the dust just above the line. He points to it. Then he erases it and makes another mark just below the line. His meaning floods your mind with the force of a revelation. You do not need to draw the earth. You only need to show its relationship to something else. Your hand moves, sure and swift. You draw the line of the horizon, E. Then, with a short, decisive vertical stroke, you place a mark above it, shung, above. You dip the brush again, and on a fresh patch of silk, you draw the horizon line once more. This time, the short vertical stroke goes below, sha, below. You have not written a thing, but an idea, a direction, a relationship. The world is not just a collection of objects. It has a grammar. Your master nods, a flicker of light in his dark eyes. He then stands in the middle of the terrace, feet planted firmly. He spreads his arms wide, a gesture that embraces the whole world. What am I? He asks. You see the shape immediately. 2 legs supporting a torso. You paint 2 simple slanting lines, meeting at a nexus. Ren, a person. Your master then stretches his arms out even further, making himself as large as he can be. The character you just drew, Ren, but with a new horizontal line for the outstretched arms. Da, big. A person making themselves big. The logic is as beautiful as it is simple. He then points again to the sky above his head. What is above the biggest man? He murmurs. The answer is not an object. It is a concept, a place, a power. You look at your character for big, da, and you understand. You draw it again, but this time you add 1 more horizontal line at the very top, above his head, above everything.
Tian, heaven. You stare at the character. It is the sky, yes, but it is more. It is the great mystery that hangs over all of humanity. You have written a prayer. Your master walks back to you and points to the very first character you tried to write, the gnarled and clumsy tree, Mu. You feel a flush of embarrassment, but he pays it no mind. He then points to your confident rendering of person, Zhan. He makes a simple gesture, a pantomime of leaning against a tree to catch his breath. Your brush finds the ink. You draw the person, Zhen. Beside it, you draw the tree, Mu. A person resting against a tree, Shu. Rest. To cease striving, to find shelter. The character flows from your brush not as 2 separate parts, but as a single, unified thought. You look from the character to your master, and he gives the slightest of bows.
The morning's lesson is over. He leaves you there on the terrace with the ink, the silk, and the 10,000 things spread before you. The brush no longer feels like a key to a lock. It feels like a part of your own hand. You look at the river flowing in the valley, at the birds taking flight, at your own shadow stretching in the sun, and you no longer see just a world of things. You see a world of relationships, of actions, of ideas waiting to be named. The sun climbs higher, its warmth spreading across your shoulders like a heavy cloak. For a long time, you simply sit, watching. Then you act. You grind fresh ink, the circular motion a calming rhythm. You dip your brush and turn to a clean stretch of silk. The river below is no longer just water. It is a force. You paint its character, shui, the central spine strong, the flanking strokes full of energetic spray. You look to the mountains in the distance, ancient and immovable. Your brush traces the 3 peaks of Shan, each stroke solid, rooted to the earth. Sun, Ri, moon, Jo, fire, Ho. The world pours through your arm, onto the silk, no longer a series of disconnected objects, but a flowing poem. You combine them. The sun, Ri, rising over the trees, Mok, creates a new character for east, Dong, the dawn. The logic is a song your mind is finally beginning to hear. The soft slap of a sandal on stone announces your master's return. He stands beside you, his shadow falling over your work. He does not inspect your practice characters. His gaze and yours is fixed on what he now holds in his hands, a scroll of thin bamboo slats bound with silk cord. He unrolls it carefully on the low table. It is not a painting, but a dense wall of characters, each one precise and ancient. He says nothing, but points with a single long finger to one character in the middle of the text. It is far more complex than anything you have written before, a constellation of strokes and lines. This, he says, his voice a low hum, is Da, virtue. He guides your eye through its architecture. It begins with a step, he says, tracing the radical on the left, Qi, which you recognize as a pictograph for a road or movement. Virtue is not passive, it is an action, a walk. His finger moves to the right side of the character, to walk a straight path. He outlines the character for straight, Cha, but then he breaks that down further, showing you how it is built from 10, Sha, and I, Muk, stacked one atop the other. A path seen by 10 eyes. Your actions are not yours alone. They are seen. They are witnessed by the community. They must be honest, clear enough for all to see. Finally, his finger rests on the component at the very bottom, a character you do not know, yet somehow recognize in the beat within your own chest. Shin. And it must all come from here, from the heart. He steps back. Walk a straight path, seen by all, with a true heart. That is virtue. The character on the bamboo slat seems to pulse with meaning. It is not a picture of a thing. It is a diagram for a way of life, a moral equation written in ink. Now, he says simply, you will write it. Your confidence from the morning evaporates. You dip your brush, your hand suddenly clumsy again. You attempt the character. The lines are hesitant, the proportions uneven. It is a dead thing on the silk, a hollow imitation. You try again, focusing on the shapes, but your stroke is stiff. A third time, and the ink bleeds, a dark stain of failure. Frustration prickles your skin. You are merely copying a shape, and the character refuses to live. You are tracing the container, but the contents spill away. You look at your master, but he offers no help, only silent presence. You put down the brush. You close your eyes. You are not just painting a symbol, you must understand its weight. You think of the straight path, the feeling of honesty. You think of the eyes of your village, of your ancestors. You think of the steady, quiet beat of your own heart. You are not writing a word, you are making a declaration. You pick up the brush again. This time, it does not tremble. You begin with the step, T, imagining the feeling of your foot on a firm path. You draw the 10 eyes, sh and mu, with the clarity of a cloudless sky. And you draw the heart, shin, not as a shape, but as a vessel for intention. The character is finished. It is not technically perfect, but it stands on the silk with a quiet strength the others lacked. It has weight. It has duh. Your master looks at your work, then at you. He gives the same slight bow as before and rolls up his precious scroll. He leaves you once more, but the silence he leaves behind is different. It is heavier, filled with the resonance of this new understanding. To write is not just to see and to name, it is to know and to be. The brush in your hand is no longer just a tool for words. It is an instrument for measuring the soul. The light in the study grows soft, the sharp edges of the room blurring into the warm gold of late afternoon. You sit with the character you wrote, the silk still damp. The silence is no longer empty. It is a space for thought to grow. The single character, duh, seems to hold the entire room in its balance. You trace its strokes in the air, feeling the memory of the brush in your fingers, the intention behind each line. The lesson has settled not in your mind, but deeper in your bones. It is a quiet, solid warmth in your chest. The door slides open with a soft rasp. Your master stands there, silhouetted against the courtyard's fading light. He says nothing. He doesn't look at your work again. He simply gives a slight tilt of his head, a gesture for you to rise and follow. You leave the brush and silk behind, the evidence of your small victory, and step out into the evening air. You follow him through the labyrinthine alleys of the city. The cloistered silence of his courtyard gives way to the growing hum of life. The smells of wood smoke and evening meals begin to drift from open doorways. The path is no longer the smooth, polished wood of the study, but uneven stone, worn by countless footsteps. You watch your master's back. He moves with the same unhurried grace he displayed with the guqin, his steps measured and certain, a line of living calligraphy against the backdrop of the world. Soon, the hum becomes a roar. You turn a corner and are plunged into the torrent of the evening market. The placid pool of your thoughts is shattered by a wave of sensation. Hundreds of voices shouting, haggling, laughing. The pungent aroma of pickled vegetables, roasting meats, and fragrant spices clashing in the air. The dizzying sight of bright lanterns, flapping banners, and a sea of faces. It is chaos. It is the antithesis of the quiet room where you learned to find the heart of a single character. Your master navigates the crowd with an effortless ease, a stone in a rushing river, and you struggle to keep pace. He stops before a stall piled high with sacks of grain, millet, rice, and wheat. A dispute has flared up here, a small vortex in the market's swirling energy. A farmer, his face flushed with anger, accuses the merchant of cheating him. "Your weights are false. You put a thumb of lead in the scoop." The merchant, a wiry man with darting eyes, shouts back, his denials sharp and defensive. A crowd gathers, eager for the drama. Their faces are a mixture of amusement, suspicion, and indifference. This is not a philosophical text. This is not a perfectly rendered character. This is life, messy and unbalanced. You look to your master, expecting a lesson, an explanation. But he only looks at you. His eyes are calm, questioning. There is no instruction in his gaze, only expectation. He has brought you here for a reason. He has shown you the character for virtue. Now he is showing you a world devoid of it. The question hangs unspoken in the air between you. What will you do? Your heart hammers against your ribs. To interfere is to invite conflict. To do nothing feels like a betrayal of the afternoon's lesson. You look at the scales, the simple wooden beam with its bronze pans. You see the straight line, the fulcrum. You think of the character you drew, the straight path, the seeing heart. Virtue is not a passive state of being. It is a choice that creates balance. You take a slow breath, letting the market's noise wash over you without entering you. You step forward. You do not address the angry farmer or the defensive merchant. Instead, you approach the neighboring stall, where an old woman is selling polished stones for grinding. With a respectful bow, you ask to borrow one of her official bronze weights, a small square block certified by the magistrate. She nods, her eyes curious. Holding the cool, heavy weight in your palm, you return to the grain stall. The shouting has subsided, all eyes now on you. You give a slight bow to both the farmer and the merchant. "Forgive my interruption," you say, your voice quiet but clear. Sometimes the beam of a scale can be warped by heat, or the ropes stretched by use. Harmony is easily lost. Perhaps we can simply test the balance? You do not accuse, you do not judge. You offer a path back to fairness. You place the official weight in one of the empty pans. Then you gesture for the merchant to place his own corresponding weight in the other. His hand hesitates. His darting eyes meet yours. In your gaze, there is no anger, only the simple, unwavering clarity you sought when you drew the character. With a sigh of defeat, he places his weight on the scale. The beam tips dramatically, confirming the farmer's accusation. A murmur runs through the crowd. The merchant, his face pale, quickly scoops more grain into the farmer's sack until the scales are true.
The farmer grunts, satisfied, and the crowd disperses, its momentary drama concluded. You return the weight to the old woman with a nod of thanks and turn to find your master. He is already walking away. You hurry to catch up. As you fall into step behind him, leaving the noise of the market behind, he speaks for the first time, his voice a low murmur on the evening air. The heaviest ink is not found on the scroll. You understand. The lesson is complete. The world is the silk, and your actions are the strokes you make upon it.
The walk is silent. The clamor of the market fades behind you, replaced by the soft shuffle of your sandals on the dusty path and the rising chorus of evening insects. The setting sun paints the sky in hues of fading plum and fiery orange. Your master walks ahead, his posture straight, his pace unhurried, a silhouette against the twilight. You follow, your mind replaying the scene with the scales. The merchant's shame, the farmer's relief, the crowd's brief fascination. You had brought harmony, but the master's words echo, turning the simple victory into a complex koan. The heaviest ink is not found on the scroll. His home is not large, a simple structure of packed earth and dark wood, tucked away at the edge of the village where the fields begin. He slides open a gate that groans softly, revealing not a grand courtyard, but a small enclosed garden. It feels like a world unto itself. A single contorted plum tree stands as a silent sentinel, its branches a dark calligraphy against the sky. Moss carpets the ground around weathered stones, and a trickle of water, diverted from some unseen stream, whispers its way through a bamboo pipe into a small stone basin. The air here is cool and smells of damp earth and night-blooming jasmine. Without a word, your master picks up a small pair of iron shears and approaches a gnarled pine, no taller than your waist, that grows in a shallow ceramic pot. He studies it for a long time, his head tilted, his gaze moving from the roots to the tip of each needle-laden branch. He seems to be listening to the tree. He finally looks at you. "The moss," he says, gesturing with his chin toward a patch of deep green velvet growing on a large flat stone near the basin. He hands you a small wooden ladle. It is thirsty. It seems like a simple task. You fill the ladle from the basin, the water clear and cold. You move to pour it over the moss, but his voice stops you. Gently, do not give it a flood, give it dew. You pause, the ladle hovering. You look at the moss again, truly seeing it for the first time. It is not a single entity, but a miniature forest of countless individual plants. A flood would wash away its delicate purchase on the stone. Dew, however, would cling to each tiny stalk, giving life without violence. You dip your fingers in the ladle and let the water drip from them, a slow, patient rain you create yourself. You focus on the rhythm, on the way each drop is received, darkening the green and releasing a fresh, earthy scent. As you work, you watch your master. He raises the shears to the pine tree. He holds them there for a full minute, motionless. He is not just looking at a branch, he is seeing its future, seeing the space around it, understanding its relationship to the whole. Then, with a single decisive snip, he removes a small upward growing sprig. The change is almost imperceptible, yet the entire tree suddenly seems more balanced, more itself, as if a thought it could not express had been articulated for it. He did not force a shape upon it. He revealed the shape that was already there. Your task is done. The moss is glistening, dark and alive, but not swamped. You stand, placing the ladle back by the basin. Your intervention at the market felt like a great weight, a heavy stroke of ink. This feels different. This is the ink of water, of moonlight. It is the action of non-action. The master had you restore balance, and now he is teaching you how to preserve it. He sets his shears down and runs a hand along the rough bark of the old plum tree. He does not look at you, but at the reflection of the newly risen moon, a perfect silver disk floating in the still water of the basin. To carve the block, he says, his voice barely a murmur, is to lose the wood. He turns and enters his house, sliding the screen door shut behind him, leaving you alone in the moonlit garden. You look from the perfectly balanced pine to the gently watered moss. You look at your own hands. You did not wield a law or a weapon in the market, but an idea of fairness. Here, you did not wield a tool, but an idea of gentleness. The world, you realize, is not just silk to be written on. It is also a block of wood, full of potential, whose greatest beauty is found not in what is carved away, but in what is left untouched. The master's house is a dark shape against the faintly luminous sky. The garden is yours now, a silent world of silver and shadow. His words, "To carve the block is to lose the wood," do not echo like a shout in a canyon, but seep into the air like the scent of the damp moss, becoming part of the atmosphere you breathe. You walk to the stone water basin and kneel beside it. The moon is there, a perfect coin of polished silver submerged in black water. It is a perfect image of celestial order, a flawless circle in a still world. You think of the laws you once studied, the intricate structures of government and ceremony. They were all attempts to create this same perfection on earth, a society as orderly and predictable as the heavens. Your intervention at the market was a small act in that same tradition, identifying a flaw, an imbalance, and correcting it, carving the block. But what was lost? In that moment of justice for the farmer, did you lose something else? Did you impose an order that would vanish the moment you turned your back? The master's pruning of the pine was different. He did not impose, he revealed. He found the tree's own truth and simply cleared the way for it. You stare at your own reflection, a wavering shadow surrounding the submerged moon. Who are you? A scholar? A magistrate in waiting? A gardener? Each title is a cut from a chisel, shaping you, defining you, but also limiting you. You try to find the uncarved wood beneath, the person you were before you learned the names for things. But your mind is a workshop cluttered with tools and half-finished projects. As you watch, a single brittle leaf from the ancient plum tree gives way. It spirals down through the still air, a silent descent in the moonlight, and touches the surface of the water. The impact is infinitesimal, yet the effect is absolute. The perfect moon shatters. The silver disc explodes into 1,000 shimmering, dancing fragments of light. The ripples spread outwards, distorting your own reflection, turning your face into a troubled mask. Your first ingrained instinct is to act, to restore order, to reach in, pluck out the offending leaf, and wait for the chaos to subside, for perfection to return. Your hand even moves, fingers outstretched, hovering over the water's surface, but you stop. You see the master holding his shears, motionless, simply observing. You hear his words again. This is not a flaw. This is a moment. The leaf is not an intruder. It is part of the garden. The wind that loosened it is part of the world. The ripples are the water's response. To remove the leaf would be to deny that this moment ever happened, to carve away a piece of the garden's story. You pull your hand back and simply watch. You watch the frenetic dance of light slow. You watch the ripples soften, their circles widening until they ghost against the stone edge and vanish. The water does not return to what it was. It becomes something new. The surface is still once more, but now the dark shape of the leaf floats upon it, a tiny boat on a silver sea. The moon is whole again, but it holds this new detail within its reflection. The image is no longer perfect, but it is more true. A sense of profound peace washes over you, deeper than any satisfaction you found in solving the market dispute. You are not trying to be empty, but you have become still. The goal, you understand, is not to be an untouched block. The goal is to be like the water in the basin, to be so fundamentally yourself that you can accept everything that lands on your surface, reflect it, absorb it, and remain water. The memory of the moonlit basin does not fade with the dawn. It is not a dream you leave behind on the sleeping mat, but a new lens through which you see the world. The master does not speak of it as he hands you a steaming bowl of millet porridge. His silence is its own form of teaching, allowing the lesson to settle in your bones. After the meal, a messenger arrives, his robes dusted with the ochre earth of the road. It is a summons from Magistrate Y. You bow to your master, a gesture that feels different now, less about rigid propriety and more about a deep flowing gratitude. He simply nods, his eyes holding the same quiet depth as the garden pool. He has given you not an answer, but a way of being. The journey back to the prefectural town is a study in contrasts. You leave the hushed sanctuary of bamboo and stone for the clamor of the world. The road is a river of humanity. Merchants shouting prices, oxen groaning under heavy loads, children chasing dogs in clouds of dust. Before, this chaos would have been a problem to be ordered, a discordant symphony needing a conductor. Now you feel the rhythm within it. The haggling is a dance. The dust is the land itself, rising up to greet you. You are a stone in the riverbed, feeling the current rush past, yet remaining immovably yourself. You find Magistrate Way hunched over his desk, his brow furrowed into a map of frustration. He greets you not with pleasantries, but with a slap of his hand on a stack of bamboo scrolls. "An impossible nut," he grumbles, "and I am expected to sever it with the single blade of the law." He explains the dispute. An old farmer, whose family has worked the same plot for 7 generations, claims a wealthy merchant has diverted the upper reaches of a stream to irrigate a new mulberry grove. The farmer's rice paddies are cracking under the sun. The merchant, however, has produced an imperial deed, officially stamped and recorded, granting him rights to that land and, by extension, the water that flows through it. The law is a straight, unbending line, and it runs directly through the farmer's heart. The merchant is arrogant but correct, the magistrate says, sighing. The farmer is righteous but wrong. If I follow the law, I destroy a good family. If I follow my heart, I undermine the authority of the emperor's decree. What would you have me do? Your old self, the scholar who memorized the codes, would have taken the scrolls. You would have searched for loopholes, precedents, interpretations. You would have tried to bend the law without breaking it. Instead, you see the leaf floating on the water. You see the ripples. The scrolls are not the garden. They are merely a description of it. The truth is not in the ink. It is in the dust and the dry earth. I would see the stream, you say. The magistrate looks up, surprised. The stream? It is just a dry ditch now. The documents are here. The documents tell us what was written, you reply, your voice calm and clear in the stuffy room. I wish to see what is. You leave the magistrate staring at his scrolls. You walk out of the yamen, away from the neatly organized world of laws and edicts, and head toward the sun-baked fields. You are not going to impose a solution. You are going to listen to the story the land has to tell. The yamen's cool stone is a memory at your back. The sun is a brass gong overhead, and the air thickens with the smell of baked earth and hot dust. The city's orderly clamor fades, replaced by the drone of cicadas, a sound that seems to emanate from the heat itself. You follow a path worn into the ochre soil by generations of footsteps, a living document of travel far older than any bamboo scroll. You pass fields of millet, their green heads bowing in the slight hot breeze. Here, outside the walls, the world is less concerned with what is written and more with what is grown. You find the disputed land easily. The line between life and death is stark. On one side, the merchant's mulberry trees stand in proud, irrigated rows, their leaves a defiant, waxy green. On the other, the farmer's paddies are a mosaic of cracked mud, the ghosts of rice stalks, brittle and pale. An old man, his back bent into the shape of a question mark, sits on a stone at the edge of his withered field. His face is a map of the land itself, carved with the lines of droughts and harvests. This must be the farmer. He watches you approach, his eyes narrowed with the suspicion of a man long accustomed to disappointment from city officials. You do not speak of laws or deeds. You simply unstopper the clay gourd at your waist and offer it to him. He hesitates, then accepts, his calloused hand brushing yours. He drinks slowly, deeply. When he hands it back, a silent treaty has been made.
My grandfather's grandfather dug these channels, he says, his voice raspy like dry leaves. He taught his son how the water speaks. It whispers in the spring, sings in the summer. Now, it says nothing at all. He points a trembling finger not at the merchant's grove, but at the dry stream bed that separates the two plots. They have silenced it. You leave him to his quiet grief and walk the bed of the silenced stream. The clay is warm and hard beneath your sandals. You run your hand over the smooth gray stones in its center, stones polished by 1,000 years of forgotten currents. You see how the main channel was brutally dammed with fresh earth and rock, a crude scar on the landscape. A new straight-sided ditch cut sharply toward the mulberry trees, an arrogant imposition of will upon the land's gentle curves. Following this new waterway, you arrive at the diversion point. You see the merchant, a portly man in fine silk, fanning himself as he directs workers. He sees you and strides over, his face a mask of ownership. He does not need to speak. His posture declares his right, the imperial deed a shield around him. You meet his gaze, but say nothing, turning your attention back to the earth. And that is when you see it. Just below the man-made dam, almost hidden by overgrown thorns and thirsty weeds, the ground is dark and damp. A small patch of mud, soft and cool. You kneel, pushing aside the scrub. There, bubbling almost imperceptibly from the earth, is a trickle of clear, cold water. It is not the stream. It is a spring, an entirely different source, choked and forgotten, but still alive. It weeps onto the ground, forming a small puddle before the sun can steal it away. The stream was not the only voice. The land had another, quieter word to offer, a secret it would only tell to one who was willing to stop and listen. You have not found a loophole in the law. You have found a new beginning in the dust. You press your fingers into the cool mud, feeling the faint, persistent pulse of the hidden spring. It is a quiet heartbeat against the sun-baked silence of the valley. This is not the grand, rushing voice of the stream, but a subtle whisper, a promise only audible to one who kneels. The merchant, in his silk finery, sees only the surface, the deeds, the dams, the channels he can command. He cannot see the life that flows beneath his feet, the unseen veins that carry the true spirit of this place. You carefully scoop a handful of the precious wet earth. It clings to your palm, dark and rich. This is your evidence. This is your hope. You rise, leaving the merchant to his supervision of the stolen water, and retrace your steps along the dry stream bed. The stones no longer feel like tombstones of a dead river. They feel like sleeping guardians of a deeper secret. You find the old farmer, Lou, exactly where you left him, sitting on the low earthen wall of his field, a statue of resignation. His eyes are fixed on his wilting melon vines, each drooping leaf a small failure. You approach slowly, not wanting to startle him. You say nothing, but simply kneel before him and open your hand. He looks down at the clump of dark, damp soil in your palm. His brow furrows. He touches it with a hesitant finger, then brings the finger to his lips,
tasting the faint trace of moisture and minerals. His eyes, clouded with age and despair, slowly widen. A flicker of something you haven't seen before. Not hope, not yet, but a deep, resonant curiosity stirs in their depths. Where? His voice is a dry crackle. You lead him back, your sandals scuffing through the dust, to the thicket of thorns. You part the branches for him, revealing the small, weeping patch of earth. He sinks to his knees with a groan, his old joints protesting. His hands, gnarled and calloused from a lifetime of work, hover over the spring as if afraid to touch a dream. He watches the tiny bubbles rise, one after another, perfect and clear. A single tear escapes his eye and traces a clean path through the dust on his cheek before falling into the mud, joining the water of the earth. "The dragon's tear," he whispers, the name of forgotten memory dragged into the light. "My grandmother spoke of it. A spring that weeps when the great river is angry. I thought it was just a story to frighten children." He looks at you, his gaze sharp and focused now. The lethargy has vanished. "It is not enough. A tear cannot water a field." "A single tear shows us that the heart still beats," you reply, your voice low. "If it weeps here, perhaps it is stronger elsewhere, closer to the source." He follows your gaze up the gentle slope of the hill behind his plot, a rocky, unaroused stretch of land ignored by all. He nods slowly, a new understanding dawning. The merchant took the obvious water, the water that ran on the surface. He never thought to look for the water that slept within. "The old ways," Liu says, more to himself than to you. "We must listen. The rock will tell us where the vein is thickest." He rises, using your shoulder for support. For the first time, you feel not just the fragility of his age, but the unyielding strength of his spirit. "It will be hard work. My son is in the south with the army. It is just me." "It is us," you correct him gently. He looks at the dying sun, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The merchant's workers are leaving, their silhouettes stark against the horizon. Their work is done for the day. Yours is just beginning. Lu picks up a single smooth stone from the ground, weighing it in his hand. It is no longer a symbol of a dead stream, but the first tool for a new life. The darkness that follows the sunset is not empty. It is filled with the chirping of crickets, the scent of cooling earth, and the vast, silent weight of the stars. Under their distant, shimmering light, you follow Liu up the rocky incline. He moves with a purpose that belies his years, the smooth stone still clutched in his hand. The hill is a jumble of weathered rock and stubborn, thorny shrubs that claw at your ankles. He stops at a spot that looks no different from any other, a flat shelf of gray stone, barely wider than a cart. "Here," he says, his voice a low rumble. He kneels, not with the groan of an old man, but with the reverence of a scholar opening a sacred scroll. He places his ear flat against the cold surface of the rock. He taps the ground around him with the river stone, a series of soft, rhythmic taps. He closes his eyes, his entire being focused on the sound, on the vibration that travels from the stone through the earth and into his soul. You must learn to listen, he murmurs, gesturing for you to join him. The earth has a voice. It sings of what it holds. Water has a different song than solid rock. You kneel beside him, pressing your own ear to the ground. You feel foolish at first, but you mimic his actions, tapping gently with your knuckles. All you hear is a dull, lifeless thud. You feel nothing but the hard, unforgiving surface against your cheek. For what feels like an hour, you move across the shelf of rock, tapping and listening. Lou is patient, correcting the rhythm of your taps, showing you how to feel the resonance in your bones. And then you notice it, a subtle change. In one small area, the thud is not quite so final. There is a faint, almost imperceptible echo, a deeper hum that seems to rise from far below. You look at Lou, your eyes wide. He gives a slow, knowing nod. "The dragon sleeps here," he whispers. "We must wake it gently." He fetches 2 tools from his humble hut, a heavy iron-tipped pick and a worn spade. He hands you the pick. Its wooden handle is smooth from years of use, but the weight of it is immense, a promise of the grueling work to come. The first blow you strike against the rock sends a painful jolt up your arms, a shock that vibrates through your teeth. A few pathetic chips of stone fly into the dark. This is not soil. This is the very bone of the mountain. Hours bleed into one another. The moon climbs high, a silver lantern in the inky sky, casting your straining shadows long and distorted against the stone. Your palms grow raw, then blister. Your shoulders scream with a fire you've never known. Beside you, Lou works with a steady, relentless rhythm. He is not as strong as you, but his motions are economical, honed by a lifetime of labor. He wastes nothing. Each swing of his spade, each pry of his bar serves a purpose. He is a part of the work, not a force fighting against it. You watch him, and slowly you begin to adjust your own rhythm, to breathe with the swing, to let the tool's weight do the work. The sound changes. It happens so gradually you almost miss it. The sharp, grating clink of iron on dry stone softens. It becomes a deeper, wetter thunk. You stop, your pickaxe held mid-swing. Lou pauses too, his head cocked. You strike again. Thunk. A spray of dark, damp grit spatters your face. It smells of deep earth and rain. You drop to your knees and thrust your hand into the shallow hole you've carved. The rock fragments are cool and moist to the touch. It is not a spring, it is not a river, but it is a promise sealed in the heart of the stone. A surge of energy, potent and primal, courses through you, washing away the exhaustion. It is the energy of hope. Lou sees it in your eyes, and a rare, genuine smile cracks the weathered terrain of his face. "The dragon stirs," he says, his voice a low rumble of satisfaction. "Now we must not frighten it." The nature of the work transforms. The brutal assault on solid rock is over. You set aside the heavy pick, its job done, and take up the spade. The compacted, damp earth is still unforgiving, a dense clay mixed with stone that fights you for every inch. But it yields. Each thrust of the spade is a victory, scooping out heavy, dark clods of mud that smell of creation itself. You and Lou work in the cramped space, a rhythmic dance of digging and clearing. Mud cakes your arms and face, cool and gritty against your skin, a baptism in the mountain's core. The hole deepens, becoming a narrow shaft. The air grows noticeably colder, the humidity clinging to you. The scent of rain and wet stone intensifies until you can almost taste it on your tongue. It's a clean, mineral scent, the breath of a world that has never known the sun. Hours pass in this fashion, marked only by the slow descent into the mountain's belly and the growing pile of dark earth behind you. "There," Lou grunts, pointing with a dirt-caked finger. He brings the small oil lamp closer, its flickering light casting dancing shadows on the walls of your pit. You see what he sees, a thin, darker line running through the stone, almost black against the gray. It looks like a flaw, a fracture from some ancient cataclysm. "Follow that," he instructs. "That is its vein." You switch to a smaller trowel he provides, scraping carefully along the dark fissure. This is no longer about strength, but about patience. You follow the meandering path of the vein, a map laid down millennia ago. The air becomes so cold your breath fogs in the lamplight. And then you hear it. Not with your ears at first, but as a vibration through the handle of the trowel. A faint, rhythmic pulse, a heartbeat. With a final gentle pry, a section of the damp rock gives way, crumbling into your hand and revealing a small, dark opening. From within this absolute blackness comes a sound, clear and pure as a tiny silver bell. Drip, drip, drip. You hold your breath, listening. It is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard. You widen the hole, your heart pounding against your ribs. Lou holds the lamp to the opening, and the light spills into a tiny, glistening grotto. From a fissure in the rock above, a single bead of water gathers, trembles, and falls, striking a small stone basin below with a perfect musical note. It is not a river, it is not a spring. It is a slow, steady, and eternal promise. You reach a trembling hand into the opening, cupping the collected water. It is so cold it feels like a shock of life itself. You bring it to your lips. The taste is of stone, of darkness, of time. It is the very essence of the mountain. You look at Lou, your face illuminated by the lamp's glow. His eyes are filled with a profound reverence. "You have given it a mouth," he says softly. "Now it can speak to the fields." The pain in your hands, the fire in your shoulders, it all vanishes. There is only the steady, life-giving rhythm from the heart of the stone, and the quiet knowledge that you have helped wake the dragon. The climb back towards the light is not the same journey. Before, you were assailing a stone giant. Now you feel as though you are being gently released from a sacred embrace. The air grows warmer with each step, the lamplight pales, and the rhythmic drip from the mountain's heart fades behind you, replaced by the sound of your own breathing. You carry no tools, only a single heavy clay flask that Liu pressed into your hands, stoppered with a plug of damp moss. It is filled with the cold, pure water. It feels less like a vessel and more like a vessel's promise. When you finally emerge from the tunnel's mouth, the daylight is a physical blow. You squint, your eyes watering, the world outside seeming impossibly bright and washed out. The parched valley stretches below, a canvas of ochre and brown under a merciless sun. The despair you see etched on the landscape feels distant now, a memory from a different life. You look at your hands. They are raw and bleeding, caked with mud, but you feel no pain. You feel only the ghost of the trowel's vibration, the memory of that first pulse of life. Lee leads the way down the path, his steps steady and unhurried. The village is hushed when you arrive. People move slowly in the shade of the eaves, their faces shadowed with worry. They see you, ragged and filthy, and then their eyes fix on Lee, searching his expression for a sign. He offers none. He walks directly to the home of the village elder, a man whose face is a roadmap of droughts and famines past. He sits on a woven mat outside his door, staring at the cracked earth. He looks up as you approach. Lee bows his head slightly. "We have disturbed the mountain's sleep," he says, his voice quiet but carrying in the still air. The elder's eyes flicker with a weary skepticism. So many prayers have gone unanswered. Lee gestures to you. Show him. Your hands tremble slightly as you unstopper the flask. You pour a small amount of the water into a clay cup on the elder's table. The liquid is so clear, it seems to vanish, leaving only a sheen of impossible coolness. The old man stares at it for a long moment. He lifts the cup with a hand marked by age spots and calluses. He doesn't drink. He brings it to his nose, inhaling deeply, his eyes closed. A single tear traces a path through the dust on his cheek. "The stone's breath," he whispers. He takes a sip. Hope, sudden and brilliant, dawns in his eyes. He looks from the cup to you, then to Lou. "The dragon?" "It has woken," Lou confirms, "but its voice is soft. We must build it a throat so it can sing to the fields." That afternoon, the entire village gathers in the parched square. Lou takes a stick and draws in the dirt. He does not draw a straight, efficient line from the mountain to the village. Instead, he traces a gentle, meandering path, a lazy serpent coiling down the slope. "We do not command the water," he explains to the assembled people. "We invite it. The channel must follow the contours of the land, respecting its flow. A straight ditch is a wound in the earth. A curved path is a conversation." He speaks of cutting bamboo from the resilient groves in the north-facing valleys, of splitting them, and of fitting them together into a single continuous vessel. It is a task of immense scale, requiring hundreds of hands and a precision none of them have ever attempted. You watch the faces in the crowd. You see doubt warring with a desperate need to believe. This is a task that will consume all their remaining strength, with no guarantee of success. Then the elder, who has been silent until now, stands up. He walks to the pile of tools lying near the well. He picks up a heavy wood and bronze axe. He turns not to Lou, but to you. He holds it out. You showed us its heart, he says, his voice ringing with newfound conviction. Now lead us in building its body. The weight of the bronze axe in your hands is shocking. It is a dense, solid thing, a tool for cleaving and shaping the world through force. Your own hands, by contrast, feel foreign wrapped around the smooth, worn haft. They are hands more accustomed to the delicacy of a teacup or the pages of a scroll. You look at Lou, a question in your eyes, but he simply gives a slow, encouraging nod. The decision is yours. You turn to face the expectant crowd. Their faces are a mixture of dust, sweat, and fragile hope. They are looking to you not for skill with an axe, which they all possess in greater measure, but for the conviction you carry, the memory of the cool, clear water from the dragon's heart. You lift the axe, not high, but enough to be seen. You point it towards the northern valleys, where the dark green fronds of bamboo rustle in the hot wind. We begin, you say. Your voice is not loud, but it cuts through the silence with the finality of a falling stone. And with that, the village moves. It is not a rush, but a purposeful flow, like a river finding its course. The men gather their tools, the women secure bundles of rope and clay, and even the children fetch gourds and buckets. You walk at the head of the procession, the elder's axe resting on your shoulder, its weight a constant reminder of the burden you have accepted. The valley rings with the sound of labor. It becomes an open-air workshop, a place of focused creation. Under the relentless sun, you learn. You learn the sharp, percussive song of an axe biting into a thick bamboo stalk. You learn the satisfying crack as a wedge splits the stalk cleanly in two, revealing its smooth, pale interior. Your first attempts are clumsy, your hands blistering quickly. An older man, his face a roadmap of wrinkles, silently adjusts your grip, showing you how to let the axe's own weight do the work. You learn not through words, but through shared rhythm and quiet observation. Lou moves among the workers, his guidance a gentle current. He shows them how to choose the strongest stalks, how to notch the ends so they fit snugly, one into the next. He explains how the channel must be laid on a bed of carefully chosen stones to keep it stable and true to the path he drew in the dirt. He is the mind, but you are the will. You move from group to group, offering a word of encouragement, sharing your water, and working alongside them until your muscles burn with an unfamiliar fire. You are no longer an outsider. Your sweat mingles with theirs in the dusty earth. By the end of the third day, a challenge arises. Doubt, like a bitter weed, begins to sprout. The pile of split bamboo is enormous, yet the path down the mountain seems impossibly long. "This is a child's dream," a man mutters, nursing his bleeding hands. "We will die of thirst before this serpent ever reaches our homes." The murmurs of agreement are quiet but dangerous. You see the energy draining from the village. You walk to the first section of the channel they have assembled, 10 long stalks expertly joined, lying on the ground like the bone of a great beast. You motion for a few of the strongest men. Together, you heave the heavy section onto the prepared stone bed at the start of Lou's meandering line. It settles with a dusty sigh. It is only a tiny piece of the whole, but it is real, it is tangible. It is the first scale on the dragon's new body. The villagers fall silent, staring at the work of their own hands. It is no longer just a pile of bamboo. It is a beginning. That first length of bamboo changes everything. It is a promise made solid. The next morning, the air is not heavy with doubt, but sharp with the ringing of axes. The rhythm of the work finds its own pulse, a heartbeat for the entire mountain. You move through the teams, no longer just a fellow laborer, but an anchor point. You learn the names of the men and women, the stories of their children waiting for the water. You help a young boy master the precise art of notching the stalks so they fit together without leaking. You work with a team of women to braid thick ropes from tough mountain grasses, their fingers flying with an ancient, practiced skill. Lu's path unspools before you, a growing spine of pale green bamboo snaking down the slope. Each new section laid is a small victory, celebrated with a shared drink of water and a moment of communal pride. The progress is intoxicating, a fever of creation that grips you all. And then you reach the scar. It is a deep, jagged ravine that slices through the mountainside, a wound in the earth 50 paces across. The mountain drops away into a dizzying void of shadow and stone. Liu's path, drawn so confidently in the dirt, stops at the very edge. The work grinds to a halt. The rhythmic chopping ceases, replaced by an uneasy silence. The old fears, which had been buried under calluses and sweat, resurface. The mountain does not wish us to pass, an elder whispers, his voice thin as a ghost's. This is a sign. All eyes turn to Liu. The engineer stands at the precipice, his gaze not on the chasm, but on the trees and bamboo groves on the other side. He is utterly still for the better part of an hour, a statue against the vast, empty sky. He picks up a stone and lets it drop, counting the heartbeats until he hears a faint clatter far below. He makes no grand pronouncements. Instead, he walks to a clear patch of earth and, with a stick, begins to draw. It is not a line this time, but a series of triangles and lattices, a complex web of intersecting shapes. He is not drawing a serpent anymore. He is drawing a skeleton, a bridge. For the next 2 days, the work is different. It is slower, more meticulous. Lu directs the felling of the thickest, strongest bamboo stalks, some as wide as your thigh. He teaches you and the most trusted workers the art of lashing. This is not the simple joining of channels, but the creation of load-bearing joints, using the grass ropes and wet leather thongs that shrink and tighten as they dry. Your fingers, already tough, are rubbed raw learning the intricate locking knots he demonstrates. You build 3-sided frames on the ground, lashing them together with painstaking precision. There is no room for error. A single weak joint could send the entire structure and anyone on it tumbling into the scar. The villagers watch, their skepticism warring with a desperate hope. Finally, the first trestle is complete, a massive A-frame of bamboo, 20 feet tall. It is a giant's tripod. The moment of truth arrives. You gather 24 of the strongest men and women. With you and Lu directing, you attach the braided grass ropes. The air is thick with tension. On your command, the teams begin to pull, their grunts and shouts echoing off the walls of the ravine. The trestle shudders, groans, and begins to rise from the ground, a great skeletal limb reaching for the sky. It sways precariously, a monstrous, fragile thing of grass and wood, silhouetted against the unforgiving blue. For a heartbeat that stretches into an eternity, it hangs there, a chaotic dance of balance and gravity. The grass ropes sing with tension, and you feel the strain not just in your arms and back, but in your very teeth. Then Lou's voice, sharp and clear as a striking stone, cuts through the fear. Hold tension. Left team, ease by a hand's width. You, at the anchor post, drive it deeper. His commands are not panicked shouts, but precise instructions. The words of a man who has already seen this moment succeed 1,000 times in his mind. You relay the orders, your own voice hoarse, feeling the immense structure respond to the subtle shifts in pressure. The base of the A-frame grinds against the stone at the very lip of the chasm. The descent is agonizingly slow, each inch a victory. Men with heavy mallets hammer home the final anchor stakes, their rhythmic thuds a prayer against the abyss. Finally, Lou raises a hand. Hold! The pulling stops. The creaking subsides. The giant bamboo frame stands firm, its 2 feet planted on your side of the scar, its peak leaning slightly out over the void. A collective, shuddering breath is released from 100 lungs, followed by a ragged, disbelieving cheer. The first bone of the bridge is set. That single victory transforms everything. The skepticism that clung to the air like morning mist finally burns away under the sun of possibility. The next day, 3 times as many people arrive to help, their hands willing, their eyes bright with a shared purpose. The work finds a new rhythm. You are no longer just a laborer. Lou tasks you with overseeing the lashing of the joints for the second trestle. Your hands, once clumsy, now move with a newfound certainty. You understand the way the wet leather will shrink, the way the interlocking knots distribute weight. You are becoming a builder. One by one, the trestles are raised, each one a copy of the first. But the true test comes when you must join them over the emptiness. The first trestle is carefully tilted forward, held by a web of ropes like a captured giant. Then, balancing on a narrow plank lashed to the frame, with nothing but the whistling wind and a dizzying drop below, you and 2 others guide the second trestle until its peak locks against the first. Your world shrinks to the feel of the swaying bamboo under your feet, the tautness of the rope in your hands, and the sound of your own breathing. Lou watches from the cliff edge, a silent observer, trusting you to perform the task he designed. With precise, deliberate movements, you lash the 2 frames together, creating the first section of the bridge's spine. When you finally step back onto solid ground, your legs trembling from the release of immense concentration, you look back. It is no longer just a collection of frames. It is a walkway, a tangible path reaching out from the cliff's edge, a defiant finger pointed at the opposite shore. The days that follow blur into a rhythm of sweat, splinters, and shared purpose. The bridge grows, a bamboo centipede inching its way across the sky. You no longer think about the drop, not in the same paralyzing way. It is a constant companion, a silent pressure at the edge of your awareness, but you have learned to live with it. You now lead a team of 5. your voice calling out adjustments, your hands checking the work of others. You know the groan of a joint under strain, the satisfying thud of a perfectly set pin. The bridge is no longer just Lou's dream. It is etched into the calluses on your palms and the ache in your back. It is yours too. The halfway point is reached and celebrated with a small feast of roasted yams and strong, bitter tea. A quiet confidence settles over the camp. The opposite cliff face no longer seems like an impossible dream, but a destination you are steadily approaching. But the sky, which has been a canvas of brilliant blue for weeks, begins to change. The wind, once a steady partner in your work, becomes fickle and sharp, whispering strange warnings through the bamboo skeleton. One afternoon, an old woman from the village, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, comes to the cliff's edge. She points a gnarled finger westward. "A serpent is waking in the mountains," she says, her voice thin as a reed. "It will come to drink from the scar." Liu thanks her for the warning, his gaze fixed on the darkening horizon. He orders the work to stop. "Secure everything," he commands, his voice cutting through the rising wind. "Lash down the ropes, double the anchors on the cliffside trestles, now!" The air grows heavy and thick, charged with a strange green light. The world falls silent for a heartbeat, and then the serpent strikes. A howling gale tears through the chasm, and the sky opens. The rain is not water, it is a solid, roaring wall that blasts the cliffside. The half-finished bridge, your bridge, begins to scream. It is a sound of 100 bamboo stalks grinding and twisting, a high-pitched shriek of immense strain. You watch in horror as the structure sways violently, not like a tree bending, but like a beast trying to throw a rider. A runner sprints from the bridge's edge, his face pale with terror. "The main lashing, at the 5th joint, it's fraying." It's the joint you oversaw just yesterday. Before Li can even speak, you are moving, grabbing a coil of thick, oiled leather. 2 others, the same men who joined the first trestles with you, follow without a word. To step onto the bridge now is madness. It whips back and forth, the plank walkway slick and treacherous. The wind tries to peel you from the frame, and the rain blinds you. You crawl more than walk, your world reduced to the lashing in your hand and the groaning bamboo beneath it. Reaching the 5th joint, you see the problem. The main leather strap has been abraded by the violent motion and is tearing strand by strand. With numb fingers, you work alongside the others, shouting over the storm's fury, weaving the new strap around the old one, pulling it taut against the impossible force of the wind. A tremor runs through the entire structure, so violent it nearly throws you into the void. You cling on, your muscles screaming, and give one final, desperate pull on the knot. It holds. The shivering of the joint subsides, just slightly. As the dawn finally breaks, the serpent retreats, leaving behind a bruised, battered world. Exhausted and soaked to the bone, you stand on the cliff edge and look. The bridge is still there, wounded, scarred, but unbroken. It stands defiant against the morning sky, a testament not just to a clever design, but to the will of the people who refuse to let it fall. The quiet of the new day is a hollow thing, filled only by the dripping of water and the distant sigh of the wind. Your body is a single throbbing ache, your clothes a cold, heavy skin. The two men with you, Wei and Bao, share a look with you that needs no words. You have faced the void together and returned. There is a bond there now, tied tighter than any leather lashing. As you stumble back towards the camp, a path is cleared for you. Faces, smudged with dirt and sleeplessness, turn to watch. Their expressions are a mixture of awe and disbelief. They are not looking at a fellow worker. They are looking at the men who climbed into the serpent's mouth and refused to be swallowed. Murmurs follow you, whispers of your name, of the impossible feat. You ignore them, your gaze fixed on the ground, each step an effort of will. Lu finds you by the cook fire, where you're trying to coax warmth back into your raw, trembling hands. He doesn't clap you on the back or offer grand pronouncements. He simply stands before you, his weathered face unreadable, and holds out his hand. You hesitate, then place your own in his. He turns your hand over, his thumb tracing the deep, bloody grooves left by the leather cord. He says nothing for a long moment, his eyes scanning from your battered hands to the scarred bridge and back again. The prefect's engineers said this chasm was impossible, he says, his voice a low rumble. They said the winds were the spirits of angry ancestors and that no structure could withstand them. They drew their plans for a road that would add 2 months to the journey. He finally meets your eyes, and for the first time, you see something beyond the hard gaze of an overseer. You see respect. Spirits do not fray leather, he continues, and plans on paper do not hold against a gale. Your hands do. He lets you go. The prefect arrives in 10 days. The bridge must not only stand, it must be perfect. From this moment on, you will oversee the final bracings. You will test every joint. You will walk it from end to end, and only when you say it is ready will the first convoy cross. He turns to leave, then pauses. You were a fool to go out on that bridge. It was a risk that could have cost us everything. He looks back at the magnificent wounded structure. But it is the kind of foolishness that carves a path through mountains. The weight of his words settles on you more heavily than the storm ever did. This is no longer just a project, it is your responsibility. Later, as the camp stirs back to life with the clang of hammers and the shouts of foremen, you walk back to the cliff's edge alone. You look at the bridge, your bridge. You see not just bamboo and leather, but the ghosts of the storm, the terror, the desperation. You see the scars on the wood, and you feel the echo of them in your own skin. The chasm is no longer just an obstacle. It is a challenge you have personally met, a rival you have bested, and the path it carves is now your own.